Yo, what is up, guys? How's it going? Frankie here from Clever Programmer. So, we were actually in the middle of the live stream when it just kind of cut down, man. That's pretty insane. What I did want to talk about, guys, is the fact that, you know, I think we should still continue everything from where I left off, just so you guys can have an idea of what is going on. And so, give me 1 second here, guys. Let me actually double check what's going on here. So, awesome. We left off in the actual SSD. I was giving a little bit of that, what people were looking at, what people were hearing. I could hear it myself. So now I believe we're good. Let me see. 1 second. Awesome. So we're gonna talk about what is going on. So best SSDs versus the actual. Give me 1 second. Beautiful. Here we go. So we got the best SSDs, right, versus the hard drives. And I'm just gonna continue from where I left off. After the end of this, we're gonna actually put together the whole video and then share with you guys in a simple format where you can just watch the best laptops for programming in 2020. I'm glad you guys are back. Thank you guys for everything, and stick to the end. Like I said, the other live stream crashed. Now we're gonna go ahead and move forward with the whole teaching because I don't want to make any excuses for you guys. We're gonna move right ahead. So off the bat, guys, I believe that going back to this is an SSD, solid state drive, hard drive, and a hard drive. Solid state drive and a hard drive. So hard drives have components on them where they actually move. They're physically making movement. And off the bat, they're making the calculations like that. And SSDs are just solid state drives, so they never really move. They kind of behave like RAM. RAM is, I believe, it's a sort of solid state drive, but it's actually used in memory. So that's why it's not that bad. And cool. So that is one. And then going into the actual differences between SSD and hard drive right now. So SSD is awesome because it's like more than 10 times faster, a lot of times, than the actual hard drive. This is an example of a laptop file transfer test rate to copy 5 gigabytes pretty much in megabytes. Higher is better. So this is 237 megabytes. This would be, I don't know how many gigabytes. How many gigabytes is that? None, because 1 gigabyte would be 1,000. So awesome. So 237 megabytes versus 33 megabytes. That's almost, what is that? That's like 8 times. That's literally like 8 times faster. SSD is 8 times faster. So you're gonna wanna have a great Ace SSD card if you are programming instead of using in a hard drive, because hard drives right now actually are a little bit outdated. I don't think you should even use them at all. And the minimum I'd say for a hard drive or an SSD right now, to be honest with you guys, would be 500 gigabytes, unless you're not doing anything important on your computer. If you're doing something that's like, it doesn't really matter, then 256, gigabytes might be okay for you. But at the same time, you can always get external SSDs, external hard drives. I believe that, it's better for you to just get 500 off the start. If you can, do 1,000 SSD, 1,000 terabyte SSD. So going into another thing that's important for you if you are going to start coding is going to be the laptop keyboards. So off the bat, man, laptop keyboards are really, really important because of the fact that you're going to be typing all day. And so we got Jim Carrey here just, snapping at the keys, just clicking everything. Da, 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 da. And honestly, everybody has a different preference on keyboards right now. And the thing about it is that, there's keyboards that have no travel whatsoever to them, like the butterfly keyboard on the MacBook computers or laptops or whatever. But they recently changed them, I believe, in 2020. They changed the butterfly keyboard because it had no travel. That was pretty insane. I didn't like it. I used to have that laptop. I didn't like it. So this is, an example of other laptops, keyboards. And this is what I'm talking about with the butterfly keyboard. So butterfly keyboard had no travel. The thing about this is that you're typing, you want to make sure that you're typing on the actual button. And sometimes with some keyboards, it feels like you're not typing into anything. It's a little bit insane. So what are we going to do? Like if a little bit of debris goes inside of the keyboard, the key, then you're going to have to fix your whole keyboard again. And that's pretty crazy. So, I mean, it really doesn't make sense to me to be a programmer, somebody that's typing all day and have these type of keyboards. Although I do love Macs, and I am very thankful for them that they actually just, change the way that they do their keyboards because of this specific thing. This is a mechanical keyboard here. A lot of people that love gaming specifically love mechanical keyboards. I like them, but they make so much noise. I think it's annoying. And some people, I think it's a little bit pretentious too. Because some people just go like crazy. Like, it's like, bro, just chill. Just kind of just type, beautifully. Like move like a butterfly, stick like a bee, Muhammad Ali. But that's kind of what I think about keyboards, to be honest with you. And mechanical keyboards are king. Logan says, hell yeah, man. I mean, I kind of like them. I honestly like them more than how they specifically function. They're pretty cool, in my opinion, but I hate the sounds that come with them. I don't like them. So one of the important things off the bat that I feel are going to be the most important things, whether you use keyboards or not, is going to be, and the actual programming on your computers is going to be the operating system. So off the bat, man, there's 3 main operating systems right now in the market. And it's very important for you to know which one you're going to use. So for example, like I said in the beginning of my slides, I said that, whether you want to make Swift apps or you want to make, Android apps, or you want to use Unity, or you want to use Xcode, or you want to use all of these different types of IDEs, they're going to require for you to have different systems. If you want to do Apple product, software, then you're going to have to use Apple, and there's no other way around it. I guess you can use, virtual machines on Windows or Unix using Apple, but I wouldn't recommend that just because it's way, way slower. But, off the bat, man, we are very kind of biased in the fact that I think Mac is pretty much might be the best laptop for programming in 2020, not just because of its amazing build and the way that it just moves. It's so fast. Even if you have 8 gigabyte RAM, and if you have 16 gigabytes, you're all set. But if you have 32 gigabytes of RAM on your MacBook, that's insane, bro. You're set for a few years for now. And what I do want to say is that, I mean, one of the biggest problems that people have with MacBooks is going to be the price. So if price is not a concern for you, Mac is the way to go. And I'll go deeper into that in a few of my other slides. But I know for a fact that Windows gives you more bang for your buck. And I grew up using Windows. I used to fix Windows computers. I think it's so awesome that they have most of their software is free. There's so many options of software. You can also do gaming really, really comfortably. And it's going to be, really cool for you to be able to choose whether you want Mac or Windows. All of them are great. The cool thing about this is that I'd say if you don't have the money for Mac, then go into Windows and use a dual boot between Windows and Linux, Ubuntu. Because right now, Linux is really cool. Like Logan is saying, he says, Linux is wicked cool, everything free and fast. Yes, it's really cool, but at the same time, it's super duper duper limited. I mean, have you guys ever used an Ubuntu operating system? It's cool. It looks beautiful. It's so customizable. But really, bro, like how many customizations are you going to do to it? It's awesome, but you can't even download, basic things like VLC player and other, or I don't know if VLC is now for Linux, sorry. But my point is that there's so little software for Unix. And if that's your primary machine, then you're just going to be so limited, not only as a developer, but as a human. So don't go into that route of just using Ubuntu, trying to be a hipster just because you think that nobody uses it. I mean, honestly, I'd say use Windows if you're going to have that, and then download Ubuntu as a dual boot, software. So off the bat, here we go with the first actual recommendation that I will give you guys for these laptops. I think the Dell XPS, if you're using Windows, is a great, great laptop. And people have gone crazy with it just because it's a great laptop for gaming. It's one of Dell's, flagship products. It's been delivering these specific series for, I think, like since 2010 or 13. It's beautiful because it's very lightweight. All Dell computers, in my opinion, have very good build, and they also last a few years. But what I do want to say is that, now more than ever, their screens are starting to become really good. And that's something that I like about Mac, is that their screens are very good. You know, coming up with a Retina display in 2015, it just kind of changed the game, man. So off the bat, Dell XPS, I'm saying, bro, if you use Windows, try to get at least 16 gigabytes of RAM. Don't try to use or get, you know, freaking, let me see if I can pull this up here. If I can, let's see, Screen Brush, here we go. So in my opinion, guys, I mean, if you are using Dell and Windows, have a 16 gigabytes of RAM, okay? And if you can't do that, then at least do 8 gigabytes of RAM. So, I mean, you're not spending that much money. I think that's going to be very important right now. I believe that i7 processors, give me one minute here, guys. Let me bust out of here, go deep into this again, and actually, let me see. Cool. So, awesome. There we go. So, if you are using this Dell as your thing, then you're going to want to get 60 gigabytes of RAM, and then you're going to want to get at least an i7 processor if you're using Intel. But if you're using AMD, then I'd say get at least a quad core processor, or maybe even a 6 core. And I'd say that the specifications, as long as they're higher than 2.0 gigahertz on the processor, then you're good. So this is going to be kind of my recommendation for you guys. If you guys, you know, are going to use Windows, I believe 16 gigabytes is the way to go. An i7, maybe even a i9 is going to be better for you. And then if you're using AMD, then get a quad core or get a 6 core with AMDs. I don't remember what they're called, but all of them should be at least higher than 2.0 gigahertz per second. So that's my recommendation with the Dell XPS. I believe it's a great computer. And now going up to the runner-ups, let's see what's next. So let me get out of there. Here we go. We got the Microsoft Surface. It's not the 3. Let's actually switch that now. It's not the 3 because right now we're at, you know, model 7. But Microsoft Surface Edition is a really, really good Microsoft alternative for programming, just because they try to get that feel of, you know, the MacBooks. But the cool thing about this is that it's a 2-in-1 computer. So that's pretty freaking awesome, guys. And the cool thing about Microsoft Surface is that you can either use it with the keyboard or not. I mean, obviously, if you're programming, you might want to use it with a keyboard. It's going to be hard for you to type on the screen, but it's cool to know that you have at least that option. But the cool thing about Microsoft Surface is that it doesn't require anything too fancy, and yet it's a really fast computer, and you can do very lightweight, you know, things with it, as in you can do mid-weight things with it because it doesn't have an integrated video card. I think some do, the pros do, I believe. But even then, they're very limited. I don't see any of these having a 4 gigabyte, you know, video card. And even though that might not be so important for your programming, I think it's important for the way that you use computers. So if you're programming, you're going to be doing other things in the background that are going to affect your code. It's not just about where the code runs. I know that, you know, video cards are very important for you if you're doing deep learning, but at the same time, they're important for everything. So, and something that I say is, if you can pretty much edit a video on a computer, you can pretty much code with it really well, most of the time at least. So that's a good one. So you guys know that Razer has been going crazy on the laptop game on these last years. People, you know, are going to Razer as one of the biggest, like the best flagship products for Windows, just because of their build quality. And it's something that Windows was missing from its market. So I'm glad that Razer was able to actually bring it here for you guys. And so let me see, what other things do I want to mention about Razer? It is good for gaming, and another awesome thing about it is that it's very lightweight, so you can carry it around everywhere. The 15-inch model is my favorite, in my opinion. I think they even have the 14-inch models, but I mean, from 14 to 15, just get 15, guys. Come on. I think the bigger screen for you guys is going to be the most important, just because you're looking at code every single day, guys. So here too, you know, if I was getting a Razer, I try to say at least 16 gigabytes RAM. Let's do that so that stays 16 gigabytes RAM. at least a 2 gigabyte VC video card, 2 gigabyte video card, and then an i7 processor. So we got this, and obviously you need that SSD. So I would say get an SSD of 500 gigabytes. So guys, you are going, you are going the Windows route. It might not be that expensive for you guys, but if you're doing this on a Mac, this would probably cost you around 2 to 3K to get on a Mac. But if you're doing it on the Windows, it might just cost you even $800 or less. So that's the cool thing about going into Windows. You can actually do this for your budget, So those are great builds. I think it's not bad if you choose them. I just want to mention that there's going to be a few things, and I'm going to mention it on the other slides. If you do use Windows, you're going to be very, very limited. But other than that, I feel like it's a great, type of alternative if you don't have the money for a MacBook Pro. So, going a little bit deeper into everything else we can do, I feel like, and give me 1 second here, guys. I want to get out of this and then start moving this. An HP Spectre is going to be another good option for you. I know the HP Spectre has been going on for a few years now, probably about 4 or 5 years. And it's kind of like the Razer of HP. So they went deep into the build quality. They have amazing, keyboards. I really like them. The screens is something that I want to emphasize. You guys are looking at code every day, so make sure that you're able to see the most amount of code on that screen. So that's why I say choose the 15-inch. Also, make sure to get very good screen to pixel ratio. I don't remember what it's called specifically, but make sure that your screen, it has very good legibility, so you can actually read from it, okay? So a lot of Windows computers, I can see a lot of pixels in them. Even to this date, they're trying to, maybe skim themselves out a little bit on the actual screen, but I feel like that just changes the whole experience of that computer. So HP Spectre is going to be a good other option. And in my opinion, I was going to add the Pixelbook, but I decided to add this instead just because I think it's a little bit more of a powerhouse. It's been proven through time. I'd say still get at least 8 gigabytes to 16 gigabytes on the HP Spectre. 16 gigabytes, to be honest, if you can. Get that SSD, the i7 processor or i9 nowadays. And please, don't, in my opinion, if this is your build and you're using a Windows, let's say you have an i3 processor. Let's actually open it up. So let's say you have an i3 processor, and you have a 250 gigabyte, and then it's going to be a hard drive, not even a what's it called, an SSD. It's a hard drive. You got this, and then let's say you got 6 gigabytes of RAM. This is actually a pretty normal build for very economic computers, I'd say. So most people that end up, buying their first computer, they have something similar to this. They have an either i3 or a dual core with AMD, right? So i3 or dual core with AMD, 250 gigabytes or 500 gigabytes hard drive, not an SSD, and then 6 gigabytes of RAM. If you have this type of build for your computer, you're going to run into a lot of problems. So at least I'd say try to get an i5. Let me actually leave it on screen. So, damn it. Let me see. Okay, there we go. I clicked it again, but there we go. So i5, and then get maybe a 250 gigabyte, SSD, and then get at least 8 gigabytes of RAM. And this is my example for low budget computers. So if you have this, at least you're not going to be that bad. And if you can get a video card of at least 1.5 gigabytes of video card, I think you're set. If you have this is pretty decent. You might not need anything else. if you're doing very lightweight tasks, like maybe using Visual Studio Code, you're running JavaScript or something like that, I think this is okay, but this is for the low budget build. I would not really recommend this if you can go maybe i7, i9, 500 gigabytes SSD, and then 16 gigabytes of RAM with a 2 gigabytes plus video card of RAM. So that would be my example. Another good one is the ZenBook. ZenBook is awesome. They're coming up with different styles nowadays for all of these, years. It's been kind of crazy. I like their build quality. It's amazing. I also like the keyboards, how they have them. I mean, I think it kind of sucks that I don't have every computer here with me so that you guys can actually check it out. But I think that would be actually really dope. But Asus is really cool because they used to make motherboards. They were kind of like on the background making motherboards, but now they're using computers that look very aesthetically pleasing and are actually very reliable. The cool thing about them is that they're actually very fast. So I'd say the same thing, 16 gigabytes RAM minimum with at least 2 gigabytes of video card, memory. And I think that would be a great option for it. But now we're gonna show you guys the MacBook Pro 16 inches. In my opinion, it's gonna be the best laptop for you to use in programming, hands down. I think it even deserves a freaking burp, 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 burp. So I feel like this computer right now is a great computer because one, I love that they added the escape button because I hated the fact that the bar was just so touch. You know what I mean? Like it was just touch. It was just like kind of if you were using your phone, but it felt kind of like soulless. Somebody's saying Windows 12 is best. I'm going to block you guys if you guys keep on just repeating something. Please keep it clean. We're all trying to learn here. And talking about MacBook Pro, man, MacBooks are insane in my opinion. Like I said, I was using Windows my whole life. Let's actually take this off. I was using Windows my whole life, but then decided to go into Mac. And it really did change everything. And if you're using a Mac, surprisingly, you might need a little bit less specs to run your code because Mac is actually very fast. It's clean the way that it runs. So in my opinion, if you're using, the MacBook Pro, I'll go deeper into what you should run with it. I think, at least 16 to 32 gigabytes of RAM would be insane. Let's actually go into that a little bit faster. So 16 gigabytes of RAM for this one to 32 gigabytes. I'm using right now the 32 gigabyte one, and it's amazing, guys. And also at least 2.5, if you can, gigabytes of video card. So this one has Intel video cards with AMD video card put together. So Intel graphics integrated with I think it's 1.5 gigabytes of integrated video graphics of Intel, and then a 1.5 or 2.5 of AMD video card. And this is a dedicated video card. And this is going to be important for your build. Like right now, most of the time we're coding and we're actually building stuff, but at the same time, we're also live streaming with you guys. So we need machines that can withstand that amount of power to do this. And this one has an i9 processor. So I believe this is either a 6-core or an 8-core processor, but it's amazing. And then it obviously has an SSD of 1 terabyte. You can get it 2 terabytes, whatever. After 1 terabyte, I think you're pretty much good. So this is pretty much, I think, in my opinion, the perfect model that you can use for, the specs that you can use for your MacBook if you're using a MacBook. Because in my opinion, like I said, MacBooks are the best laptops for programming, hands down, just because it's going to make everything so much less complicated. And so, I'll give you guys, this is an example of one that you can build very well and would actually stand the test of time. You can probably have this for at least 3, maybe even 4 years, actually, if you have this type of build. 16 gigabytes, it's a little bit outdated in my opinion. You should be going to 32 already, because 16 is kind of like, I think it's fine, to be honest with you. I think it's fine. You're probably not going to need anything more than that. But if you want, that's probably going to last you maybe like 2 more years or something like that, in my opinion. But let's say you have a little bit less money and you still want to, use the MacBook. I'd say a good build for MacBooks would be maybe, the 8 gigabyte. Let me actually keep it there. So 8 gigabyte with a laptop, with a MacBook, and run maybe an i5 processor. I think that's good. and then also the video card for it to be 1.5. And I even think that's a little bit small. Video card, a dedicated video card, okay, not an integrated video card. You know, if you have a MacBook Air, MacBook Airs do have integrated cards, which is not the same. Integrated graphics is not the same as a dedicated video card. And so 8 gigabytes, this, I would still suggest an SSD. So I'd say 500 gigabyte SSD. So if you have this, or if you have an i7, I believe this build for Macs is gonna be insane for you. It's gonna be really, really good. So if you're coming from Windows and you're like, damn, I really want to code in Mac. What do I want to do? Mac also have heating issues. No, they don't. Macs don't really have heating issues, man. If you're building your own PCs, that's when you're gonna have a lot of heating issues. Raul Mandal says that. And no, bro, you know, if you're most desktops have bad heating issues if you're using a Windows desktop that you built. If you're using a Mac, heating issues are even getting better. In the 2013 to 2015 models, or 2012 to 2015 models, the fan would turn on really fast and try to, you know, it would make a lot of sound. I didn't like it. But after the 2016 model, they started getting, you know, their heat maintained very, very well. So the fans on the 2016 up versions of the MacBooks are insane. They're really, really good. You know, right now I'm using a MacBook to run this whole live stream, and it's pretty good. It's very buttery. So it's amazing. And like I say, this is the one that I would suggest if you have a budget for MacBooks. So guys, I know maybe MacBooks might be expensive for you, but at the same time, guys, you know, save up some money. I think a good way to buy a MacBook would be buy a refurbished one. So don't buy a new one, buy a refurbished one. You'll save yourself hundreds of dollars for the same thing. You can also buy used ones. So if you don't buy a refurbished one, buy a used Mac, and that's going to be better for you than some other Windows products. And that's not me hating on Windows. That's literally just my experience. I love Windows computers, especially for gaming, man. But if you're trying to code, if you're trying to do something sleek with your time and also your code, then go with those specific things on the MacBook. And like I said, MacBook, in my opinion, would be the best bet as computer, as a laptop to use for programming. But let's say that you weren't able to have a MacBook for whatever reason. Then for you, your best bet would be definitely use a Windows computer, but use Ubuntu as a dual boot. Okay, a dual boot. So what you're going to do is you're going to buy a Windows PC because they normally don't sell Ubuntu PCs. Ubuntu is it's a version of using Linux, right? So what's cool about this is that you can have your Windows PC, you can buy, you know, the whole setup with Windows, even build your own PC, and Ubuntu is free. So just install it as a dual boot in your computer, and you can have best of both worlds. And once you start, you know, coding, you can just use Ubuntu. But once you're using your computers like normal, then you just use Windows, and that's totally fine too. I've had experience doing that, running it myself. It's actually really enjoyable. I like it, man. I like Ubuntu a little bit, but like I said, it's very, very limited in terms of the software that it provides for the users. And so that's why I wouldn't use it in the long term. But at the same time, I mean, I know that a lot of companies use Ubuntu as their go-to, you know, OS, and they actually use them on virtual machines. So they have it on Windows, but they run it on virtual machine instead of Windows, which literally just means that you're running an operating system instead of another operating system. And that's okay. But I'd say use the dual boot option with Ubuntu and Windows. And here, I just put Pixel versus Surface versus, then it's the MacBook. My opinion, I just like this photo. I mean, I didn't put the Pixel. I was going to put it, but then I decided to put the HP Spectre. Using all of these, this is the Surface Book. In my opinion, between these three, the MacBook is just the winner. You know, without a single doubt in my mind, the MacBook is just the winner. I mean, whatever you want to say, man, like at the end of the day, it's all about efficiency, reliability, and quality, in my opinion. So, you know, if you're going to get better overall in almost everything, just invest a little bit more money into the MacBook Pro. And I wouldn't suggest the MacBook Air just because I don't like the fact that it doesn't have dedicated graphics. It has integrated graphics, and that's going to slow down the way that you use your computer a lot. Even if you're just using Chrome or doing something very, very, you know, not as demanding as maybe, I don't know, running high definition video or something like that. So one of the biggest important things about Mac is that, I do want to explain about the display differences in Mac. So after the Retina displays came out, I think in 2015. That was the first model. Man, it just changed completely everything. It's like you can see things in 1080p and this is how it looked like, the size that it would look like, the screen resolution, how it would look like, and then the Retina display just makes it so much crispier. Now you don't have to see the pixels on each text. So this text rendering on screens on Mac is just amazing. And that's a huge part of coding, definitely. So, one of the biggest things about it is that you're going to be looking at text your whole freaking day. So you don't want to be looking at text that looks very pixely. It's going to hurt your eyes. Plus, it's going to be harder for you to read. Plus, then all of that gets compounded and you're spending more time looking at code, more time thinking about things. You have less energy. It all compounds and makes it harder for you to keep using that computer. And I know for a fact from my own experience, I was using this HP, what was it? It was an HP Envy computer very recently. That was another one of the options that I thought of putting in here, but I decided not to, just because I thought it was like way too economic. And you guys can, using what I just taught you guys about what I think a decent build would be for computers. But in my opinion, most of those screens just look a little bit like this, and I cannot stare at them for long periods of time. So one of the biggest things about the MacBook is the fact that, everything is so much easier on MacBook. You're not going to be able to follow, some tutorials that you see on the web. Another thing is that the command line with MacBook is using Unix, and Windows is not using Unix. I believe they said that they had now Bash in the new Windows, but at the same time, it's not the same as using this specific command line. So here I put a little part of an article. It says, Macs run full-time on Unix-based operating system, and they are thus more developer-friendly. This explains why Macs are the way to go for many developers. With a Unix-based command line, programming is easier as you're able to run programs in almost any language. So you can just install Python like nothing on Mac, and it's going to be very, very hard for you to do that on another programming language. Another operating system. And man, it's just going to save you so much time. Let's say you were following somebody else's tutorials. Let's say you're in school and you don't want to spend so much time setting things up. Mac is going to be the way to go. Another thing is that Unix is also more secure by default compared to Windows. This is the reason why Macs tend to be safer against the tools that hackers use, such as malwares, Trojan horses, and viruses. And the reason why that is because most of the people in the world use Windows. So there's a bigger pool of people using Windows. So obviously, if you're a hacker, then you're going to want to target Windows because so many more people use Windows and Mac. And because of that reason, there's more malicious softwares and hackers in these platforms such as Windows and Ubuntu. Well, nobody has that, so nobody wants to target that, to be honest with you. Or Unix, or Linux. Nobody's going to want to target that because nobody really uses Linux. So that's a little bit about that. But in my opinion, if you're into cybersecurity, if you're into those type of, professions, then I'd say use Windows because that's probably the command line that you're going to be using. That's really why people want to, hire you, so that you can either develop antivirus software or just, anti-malicious software or just protocols and things like that. So if you're having any of those type of careers, then I'd say use Windows. But if not, if you're just doing software development, use Macs. And this is kind of just, the command line on Mac right now. So let's see what you guys are saying. At least the MacBook Pro, yep. So which OS is most used in IT profession work? Nikun asks. And so in IT, in my opinion, the most use is going to be Windows. There's a lot of softwares like Wireshark that you would use on Windows. I think it's also on Mac, but everything is done on Windows, man, because you're trying to work with networks, and Windows has a very good latch on that. They can actually work very well with specific software, network type of work. So like I said, if you guys are following any tutorial, this is an example of an Xcode tutorial that somebody's following and they're making an app here. Off the bat, to begin with, you guys are just going to see so many more lines of code, even if you're using, Mac versus Windows, because the way that they, tend to have their screen resolution is just going to be a little bit bigger. Their screens have better quality, and the 16:9 ratio is really, really nice on these. But the fact that you can look at these words without them being very pixeled, it's going to be great for you. Plus, the whole development environment is going to be insane on the MacBook Pro, just because, like I said, Python can run on it like nothing, almost by default. And other things like just installing, for example, Visual Studio Code, your developer environment is going to be way, way easier to have it set up there. In Windows, you have to move all these knobs, all these things, like you have to download so many packages for you. It's always telling you to get updated. Then you got to make sure that your drivers are on point. Then you got to make sure that, it's so many things. And then Mac makes it so easy for you to just be ready with everything. So MacBook Pro is going to be the way to go if you do have the money for that. If you don't, like I said, use Windows with Ubuntu as dual boot. But, in conclusion, guys, like you guys might have seen right now because I just clicked it, we got this little monkey right here. And this is how you don't want to feel when choosing your laptop for programming in 2020, guys. Just because of the fact that, like I said, guys, it's going to take us all the way to the beginning. Obviously, think about your endpoint. What do you want to do with programming? If you're going to be doing software for Macs, then you're going to need a Mac computer. If you're going to do other things that don't require anything related to the MacBook developer environment, then you can use Windows. But think about it as well. So then be like, okay, so what's the budget that I want to think of? If you're trying to do $800 or less with a budget, I'd say try to get an SSD and try to make it 8 gigabytes of RAM at least. If you can do a little bit more of money than that, then I'd say, obviously get the 16 gigabytes RAM, get the 500 gigabyte SSD, and try to get a dedicated video card. Don't be using integrated video cards, not only because maybe the code doesn't use the video card. The matter of the fact is going to be that you're going to be doing other things on your computer while doing the code. So you don't want to limit yourself just by thinking like, oh, I'm going to use my whole computer for code. Nope. Everything like really affects the way that you code. So, let's say you're doing a design on the other screen, then you're going to want a computer that has very good screens so that you can see the pixels and actually see the spacing, make sure the proportions are good. All of these things are going to be part of this. So off the bat, guys, I do want to say thank you so much. Like I said, MacBook Pro would be the best and ideal way to go if you want to get a really killer computer in 2024 programming specifically. It's going to be easier for you to set up your developer environment. It's going to be easier for you to see on the screen just because of the good screen ratio that it has, the 16:9 ratio, together with the great quality displays that Mac has for you guys, whether that's the Retina display or even the newer LCD displays they're doing. They have really good backlight. Another thing is going to be their keyboards. They used to have the butterfly keyboard. It's not that great in my opinion, but now after the 2020 model, and I believe the 2019 16-inch one, then the keyboard started to be very, very decent. So that's going to be awesome. So remember, guys, that if you can, do 16 gigabytes RAM at least on RAM, because it's going to affect the way that you move around your computer. 8 gigabytes for a Mac is okay, but I'd say still, push to get the 16 gigabytes. Also, another thing I want to mention is the fact that, command line on Mac is, like I said, Unix based and Windows is not. So that's going to save you a lot of time in running your apps, pushing them to GitHub, all of these things. And like I mentioned, the quality, and then just following the tutorials, it's going to be so much more easier for you to pick up a language if you can just really forget about everything that is around you and just don't have to worry about the environment of your programming that much. You don't have to worry about downloading a bunch of packages for you to start coding. If you can just do it pretty much out of the box, then your skill set is just going to go from here to here that much more faster. So make sure to not only invest in maybe how you think a machine will end up, costing and how much you're going to be using it. Think about the fact of the quality of the everyday usage of it. So, you know, maybe you're going to be thinking like, oh, damn, like I want to save a little bit of money, but at the same time, I'm losing a lot of time because I cannot even read the code on my screen. So don't think like that, guys. You know, really make an investment. A laptop is a really great investment if you're doing programming. It's going to be one of your most important investments. So make sure that not only do you get a computer that can actually run your code very well, but it helps you do other things on the side, like watch videos, look at designs, because in videos you're going to see tutorials, because in designs it's going to help you build your projects, and then render projects, you know, maybe even push projects to a Git repository or anything like that. So all of those things are going to be part that make up the requirements for your computer. But like I said, guys, those pretty much are the things that I would recommend for you guys. You guys can get anything you want, but MacBook Pro is going to be the best bet, the best bang for your buck, ultimately for most development, you know, environments, careers, and things of the sort. So with that said, guys, you know, if you guys are really enjoying this content, if you guys want to keep up to date with what we're putting out on the daily, because it is really fire content. We're making a bunch of clones, whether that's, you know, the Hulu clone, YouTube clone, Tinder clones, all of these clones. We're putting them together for you guys in the next weeks. We're going to actually drop a React video, and you guys should very much stay tuned for it. And also, if you guys are enjoying this type of content and you want to learn a little bit more about how to become a profitable JavaScript developer, go into our free training down below on the description, and you're going to see that we have a webinar for you that Kazi did with a lot of love, and it's going to teach you exactly how to start from the beginning to become a profitable JavaScript developer. And also, you know, check out Profit with JavaScript as well if you guys want to do the same thing. This is our course, our flagship course that teaches you just that. So with that said, guys, it was a pleasure to be with you guys. The first thing got actually cut off, so I'm going to put together the video so that you guys can actually see it in one specific take. So I do apologize because of that. We got a bunch of technical issues. Some days it's perfect. But with that said, MacBook Pro, #1 as the best laptop for programming in 2020. Other than that, there's a few other options that I listed for you guys, and make sure to check out those specs that I'm telling you. Make them the minimum that you can get, and if you can invest a little bit more money, do it. It's going to be very, very worth it. All right, guys, this was Frankie for y'all. Take it easy. Much love. Peace. Bye-bye.